My name is Tiffany, and one of the most important things life has taught me is that you've got to show up for yourself. Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany Moore-Borgelin, and welcome to Present for Myself. So today I'd like to share with you guys a story, something that took place and happened to me many years ago. And I say many years ago, just to give you perspective, it was when Blockbuster was still a really big deal, and going to Blockbuster every Friday night and, going home and getting some food and watching a movie, that was just the thing to do on a date. So I was on a date and I was at this restaurant and we were parked out front, and the person who I was on the date with pulled right up to the front door and went inside to get our order. So I'm sitting outside in the car looking down at something. I know it wasn't a cell phone because that was before everyone had cell phones. It had to be a menu. Maybe I don't know what I was looking at. I was looking at something. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, I just hear this boom, this big noise. And I look up really quickly. And when I do, this man comes running out of the door full speed and just he runs past the car window and just goes flying across the parking lot. And then before I could even, ascertain where he was going, I hear another boom, boom. And it's another man. And I'm looking and I'm confused. I'm watching the one guy go running across the parking lot. I look back at the other guy. He's right next to the car. And then I look on the ground and there's a woman on the ground. And he's like, grabbing her shoulders and pushing her down and pushing her away. And he's got his hand in her face and kind of mushing his hands into her face and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this woman is being, violated. I don't, what am I going to do? So, where I grew up and the way I grew up, you helped people, but you knew when to step in and when not to. But there's just something about me being a woman, her being a woman, him, I'm perceiving that he is, pushing her down and hurting her in some sort of way. So I go rifling through my, glove compartment, trying to find maybe a flashlight or something heavy that I could jump out of the car and I was about to handle the situation. I mean, I'm going to help my fellow man or woman or whatever. And just as I was rifling through the glove department to find something or compartment to find something, I hear a voice in my head, one that I hear often. We all have it. And the voice said, stop and look again. And I looked again and I was able to assess what was really going on. I'm like, what? The man was pushing her and kind of mushing her face back because she was holding on to the back of his t-shirt. And he had gone as far as he could go, and the t-shirt was tearing and stretching and pulling, but he still couldn't get away. And so he's just mushing and pulling. And I'm like, what? And then the voice says, he is not attacking her. She will not let go of his shirt. And I'm thinking to myself, what has he done, or what does he have that's so important that she won't let go of him, that she wants to hold him there in place? And where did the other dude go? What's going on? And so I got this really loud commanding voice in my head that said, do not help her. And I was like, whoa, this is deep. And I couldn't call anyone. I'm stuck in the car. They're literally so close to my car that if I had tried to open up the door, I would have hit both of them with the car door. And I just had to sit there and watch that take place in real time. And it went on for probably a good 20 seconds, 25 seconds from the time that the first man ran out the door. So, I'm telling you guys this in my time or in our current time, but the total time was probably about 25 seconds that the whole thing took place. And then he finally broke free, his shirt tore, and then he went running in the same direction as the other guy. And then around that time, a guy who I perceived to be the manager of the store comes walking out. And then I realized the girl has on a name tag for this particular restaurant. And he, checks her over to make sure she's okay and everything. But then he says, what in the world are you doing? You know that this is against company policy. You are not supposed to chase after people who dine and dash. And, I was able to hear all this because my window was slightly, slightly down. And I'm like, what? Dine and dash? You're chasing after somebody over some chicken wings or whatever it was? And the manager said, as you noticed, no one else came running out to help you. And he said, and I wasn't about to. He said, but then I realized, the guy got away, so I came running out here. And I was like, wow. And he reprimanded her. Of course, again, he made sure she was okay, asked her if she felt like she needed any medical assistance or whatever. And the whole time she's just cussing and fussing about how she's tired of, people coming in and dining and dashing and all this stuff. And that same voice spoke up and said, and that's why I told you not to help her. It wasn't like she couldn't let go. Like maybe, he started running and maybe caught hold of her sleeve or something and dragged her out the door. It's that she wouldn't let go. And because she wouldn't let go, she got drug or dragged or whatever you want to call it. She got her face mushed in by his hand. She probably bruised up some, but she would not let go. And if you had have tried to help, you might have made the situation worse or ended up getting hurt yourself. And this isn't one of those situations that's worth putting your life on the line. The manager of the restaurant saw that clearly because, of course, they saw the whole thing go down inside, and the other employees saw it clearly. No one else came out to chase after this guy. It was just her. It was her in her ego and in her stubbornness thinking that she could apprehend this person. And I'm like, what are you going to get? Now, please understand, I'm the type of person that if someone is hurting or they need help or assistance, I'm going to do everything that I can to assist, especially if I see someone in distress. But one of the things that I've had to learn how to do over the years was to stop and assess the situation. And what that means is if it's not something that's taking place in that split second, it could be a person in your life who's constantly going through something and you're just committed to utilizing your energy to help them without even assessing the situation because, hey, that's my friend or that's my family member or whatever it happens to be. But you have to stop and assess. I was not allowed to help her because she was being stubborn. I thought to myself, in what situation would I have jumped out of the car? Possibly if maybe he had a child in his hand and he was running out of the restaurant and, they were there was a tug of war and the child was getting help or something. I'm not even going to go into all the situations where it would have been okay for me to jump out of that car, or something like that. But in that situation, I heard very distinctly, do not help her. She is being stubborn. And that's what I wanted to tell you guys today. Stop helping stubborn people. You have to assess if a situation is supposed to be for you to help or worth you jumping in to help. Because if it is not, then you could really do yourself and possibly other people around you a great deal of harm by utilizing your energy and your resources to assist someone who doesn't want help. Now, I just want to put a little bit of a little rider in here, if you will, a caveat to this, if you will. Some people, they need help and they're not able to help themselves. And it's maybe because maybe they have an addiction or maybe they're being abused in some way and their mind has been just completely torn into pieces by the abuse and they don't even know who they are anymore. I'm not saying that those people are necessarily being stubborn. Some people just are not in their right mind when it comes to knowing how to leave because they've just allowed themselves to be just beat down to the point where they don't, know any better anymore, better for themselves anymore. And then as far as like an addiction or something goes, I always say a lot of times with addicts, the first time you use it, it's a choice. But once that addiction kicks in, you can't help it. You need help. And if you decide to stay in someone's life to assist them because they're being abused or mistreated or because, they have an addiction or something like that, the piece of advice I have for you in that situation is make sure that you yourself have support for something like that. And before you go and expend all of your energy and resources, make sure that you're properly either trained or you're thoroughly supported in your endeavor to assist a person who is battling abuse or addiction or something. And that's just another way to show up for yourself, making sure you don't give yourself over to something that you're not properly prepared for. But let's get back to the matter at hand. This girl, this woman, this person was being stubborn, and I almost risked my life to help her. I was some kind of mad when I heard the manager say, we don't help people who dine and dash. Dine and dash, sis. Like, he didn't even have your purse. I get it. He dined and dashed, so he didn't pay for the meal and they didn't leave a tip. I don't know what her personal situation was like, but I can assure you that there was nothing like going on that was worth her risking her life. You don't know if that guy had a gun on him or a knife he could have taken out and started slashing at her. My mind goes so many places when I think about what could possibly take place. But that's how many of us are with situations. We don't assess what we're dealing with. And sometimes even after assessing, because we're coming from a place of our own trauma bonds and all kinds of codependency issues and different things like that. You know, we have some sort of superhero complex, or we want to let people know we're there for them. We go above and beyond, and then we end up in a space where we're much worse off than sometimes even the person who was in the original situation. And part of showing up for yourself is knowing when to come to the end of yourself and ask for help for yourself, and to also provide help for other people. You know, it's that simple. Stubborn people are operating from a place of ego. They're operating from a place sometimes of fear or pride. None of that stuff is beneficial. And when you decide to get yourself inextricably intertwined with someone who doesn't desire in that moment to listen to you, to hear you, then you need to shake the dust off of your feet and keep it moving. Make sure they understand I'm no longer the one. This whole ride or die mentality that some people have, let me tell you, and you guys may have seen it before too. There's this like meme where this woman says, you know, I'm not ride or die. You know, I got questions. Where are we going? Who gonna be there? What's taking place? I'm not ride or die. That's not me. And you shouldn't be either. No one should be ride or die unless you know the situation firsthand. Now, granted, I've got some people in my life who I would ride out with. You know, that's how they say it in the hood, that when I was in the hood or whatever, I'll ride out. What you need, sis? I got you. You know, what we trying to do? What's going on? You need my help? But usually that's for someone who's already proven themselves to me. They've proven their stability. They've proven their decision making. They've proven that they're not just, you know, trifling and they're just out here getting into any type of little matter over their ego and stuff like that. That's somebody that I know they'd be there for me. They'd show up for me. I'm going to show up for them. You know, I got you. But even in those situations, friend, how you living? What's going on with you? Who is this person, or what is this situation? Because I may be able to offer you some wise counsel, and it may not have to come to that. Like, it shouldn't always just be off the cuff. Like your frontal lobe isn't fully developed and you're going to just do everything from a place of compulsion instead of a place of rational thinking and wisdom. Do you understand? At some point, we have to grow up. Some people don't ever grow up. That's why youth is not necessarily always the determining factor as to whether someone has wisdom, and neither is being old. It's about your ability to assess situations, utilize wisdom, and try to understand and utilize your intuition or what have you. That voice, many people said, you know, it could be my intuition. It could be my gut. It could be God. It could be whatever you call that voice. But you better learn how to listen to that voice inside of yourself and stop helping stubborn people, trying to help them be delivered from a fate that could actually be yours, and they'll move on. There is this story that people have told before, and I've heard it in different settings and in different ways, and some of you may have heard it too. It's the story of the little boy who his parents, they had a priceless vase. It was priceless or very expensive, like it could buy many things, homes on top of homes on top of homes, or whatever you want to call it. But it was just a very expensive vase. And the little boy was about 4 years old, 5 years old, and he got his hand stuck in the vase. And so his parents, they of course tried anything they could to get his hand out of that vase. They put butter, they put oils, water, whatever they could. And they kept trying to like slide the little boy's hand out of the vase. All the while he's becoming more frantic, more anxious, you know, started turning red. His hand started to swell up. His wrist started to bruise. And of course, his parents, you know, they want their son to be helped. And so they called in someone to see if they could, you know, get his hand out of the vase. Professionals couldn't get his hand out of the vase. So eventually, guess what they had to do? They had to break the priceless vase because, hey, that's my baby boy. That's my child, whatever. So they broke the vase. And upon breaking the vase, they discovered the thing that actually had kept the boy's hand stuck in there the whole time. He had his hand tightly balled up into a fist. And when, instead of like sliding his hand out, he had it in a fist. And when they went to open his hand to see what he was holding on to that was so important, it was a penny. So they broke a priceless or very expensive vase in order to preserve his penny. Many will say, no, they broke the vase to help their son. And they did. But take this into perspective. when you're dealing with someone who's holding on to something that's not worth what is priceless, their life or your life, it can be very frustrating. And you've got to learn to take a hard line in those situations. There's a difference between helping someone who needs true assistance and a person who is allowing their own ego, their own fear, and everything else that's not necessary. And you're helping them. You're assisting them with your resources and your energy and your time, all the things that are so very valuable to you as an individual. And that needs to stop. A lot of times when you make these decisions, it may seem like it's hard or harsh for the people that you're used to helping, the people that you're used to showing up for. But let me tell you something. How many of you have ever been at a funeral and you've heard people get up and they say all these beautiful words about the deceased? And they say, oh, he was such a giver. His phone was always on the hook, for those days, this was Blockbuster, remember back in the days. But his phone was always, he answered it every time you called, anytime, day or night. He was always there for you. His door was never closed. Regardless of what the situation, he would always show up and be there. And people will get up and they'll say all kinds of beautiful and flowery things about you at your funeral. They'll say all these great things about how you were always there to help. You were so selfless. You gave of yourself unendingly and without question to those people, the people that you cared deeply for, and to strangers, and you never took time for yourself. You would give up your own recreation and rest and respite just to help another individual out. And those are the words that are said over and over and over again. He was always there for me. And then another person says, he was always there for me too. And another person says, oh yes, she was always there for me. You too? Yes. Isn't that just their way? And they're saying that about you over your coffin. And I have to wonder sometimes when I'm in those types of services or I'm hearing those type of accolades be put upon someone. You never hear people a lot of times say they were so balanced. They knew how to take a break when they needed a break, or a vacation when they needed a vacation. They knew when to say no and when to say yes and when to say maybe. They didn't have a problem balancing out their time. And as a result, they were always, very nourishing and strong and strengthened. No, a lot of times you hear them say, oh, honey, even when they were tired and even when they could barely keep their eyes open, they would sit up with me all night long and go over my problem. And no matter how many times I came to them with the same problem, let me tell you, you hear these people talk about you, or rather other people, and you have to ask yourself, the people that you help, they'll get to see their grandkids grow up. They'll get to walk their daughters and sons down the aisle. Oh yeah, this is deep. And it may sound like I'm getting, oh, now this is just too dramatic. You're talking about people dying over it. But let me tell you something. High blood pressure, stress, all these different things that take people out of the world. Overeating because you're emotionally eating, you're trying to stuff in your feelings and all of that. Many of those things can be attributed to the way that we handle life, the stressors of this world. And some of the biggest stressors of this world are stubborn people. People who refuse to change, but will use all of your energy and resources to stay where they are. You want to be there to grow old, to check things off of your bucket list, to walk your children down the aisle, or whatever traditional things society says we're supposed to do as we get old, just to retire and sit by the lake and fish or travel. But a lot of times these people don't make it to that. And the people who used all your resources and drained all your energy, 9 times out of 10, you're one of many people they're doing that to. So they're going to be all right. And it needs to stop, not just for your health, your mental health, and your well-being, but it also needs to stop because when you help people who are stubborn, you are enabling them. You are providing for them the fortitude that they need to continue to remain in their stubbornness. Sometimes it's only after you've shut the door, hung up the phone, turned off your ringer. You know what? I'm not even going to say turn off your ringer because we need to get strong enough to tell people don't call here no more with that. I want you to be stubborn. I want you to stubbornly refuse to be used to do other people's bidding, especially when they just refuse to change. That will bring you into alignment with your assignment. It will keep you refreshed and nourished. It will bring you to a place of understanding who you are and who you are not, and who you're supposed to help and where you're supposed to be and who you're not supposed to help, and where you're not supposed to be and what you're supposed to leave be. We got to stop helping stubborn people. We have to learn to tell them that they need to let go because you're letting go. That girl ended up okay that night. I'm sure her ego was bruised, and I'm sure people in the restaurant were talking about her when she went in. I mean, she might have even lost her job behind that because it was supposedly company policy. I'm here to tell the story, and I desire that you remain here to tell yours, to write yours, to craft yours, to narrate yours. Stop helping stubborn people. Be present for yourself.
People, we must be very protective to the seed that has been birthed within us.
Sometimes when we don't know the words we